Welcome back to American Zarathustra. We have a very special program today. I'd like to introduce you to Brant Danger, the author and creator of schoolofthewest.world. Brant, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'm probably like about a 9.2, 9.3,
Sweet,
so pretty good.
sweet. Geez, I got to learn your secrets. That's awesome. Well, I mean, there's a lot to be happy about with what you've accomplished with this site. Um, schoolofthewest.world. It appears to be a school for, it's rather a website for homeschooling in the context of white well-being. Of course, the link will be below. Strongly urge everybody to go check it out and please share, subscribe, you know the drill. So, Brant, if you could give us the lowdown, what is School of the West?
Okay, as School of the West exists right now, it is an asynchronous supplement for parents that are homeschooling their children.
Okay.
So right now in public school, some of us are teaching live in the classroom, some are just teaching virtual, and some of us are teaching hybrid, which means we have kids in the class and we have kids at home. And when we're teaching our lessons to any kids that are, live in that lesson that day, that's called synchronous. We
Mm-hmm.
also have to put asynchronous information out on the school websites for kids that are not able to tune in live. So asynchronous just means like that's what's mostly the web is. It's
Okay.
some pre-recorded videos, and most of the lessons on my site right now, there is a video and then there is an accompanying PDF document that
Mm.
can be downloaded and the kids work on it like it's worksheets or homework or whatever. Now, the the homeschooling information is going to be a bit different from what people are used to because it's not just going to be run of the mill like core lessons for reading and math and that type of stuff,
Yeah.
even though that's there. I want that stuff to be there. But there's also going to be a section, and the section exists right now for white well-being, which is based upon Jason Kone's work, aka No White Guilt.
Yep. Yep.
And this is to deprogram people from the anti-white propaganda that they have been hit with for generations. And that is being instilled in our kids right now. So the idea is if you're homeschooling your kid, number one, you're taking them out of that anti-white environment that they get in the public school institution. Plus also, like Jason's material is kind of like an inoculation so that you are prepared for what you're going to get. You're prepared for that anti-white propaganda as it hits you later on, and
Mm.
you recognize it when it hits you so it doesn't have an effect on you. You understand the larger picture. You
Mm.
don't fall prey to that.
Mm.
And then there's also going to be on there lessons slash videos, informational videos that I kind of put into like a culture slash history section because I think that our culture and our history, they're bonded together, they're welded together. We can study them all at the same time.
Mm.
And there'll also be some art projects. There'll be videos slash lessons about real life skills, home ec skills, cooking, baking,
Mm.
sewing, repairing things, working on a car,
Nice.
CPR, all these things that come in. So the way that it's set up right now is there's some core information that I can work on that I'm making. And then I have people that contribute information to me as they develop it.
Mm.
And there are several other people that are that are working on stuff right now. And as it comes in, we'll kind of massage it, tweak it, or whatever if we need to. And then I put it on the site. And the site's set up in a modular format so that when I need to create new categories and when new information comes in, bum, 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 I just
Yeah.
plug it in. And the
Yeah.
site's going to continue to get built and built and built. Now,
All right.
eventually, we're going to move towards live lessons. Okay.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff that I need to look in for that. Plus, there's got to be that need out there. There's got to be enough people saying, look, this is what we want. My kid wants to learn this, etc. And
Mm.
then I'll also create a community section where parents can start talking to each other because in every way possible, I think in our white well-being sphere, we need to develop community because it kind of feels like we're spread out all over.
Yeah.
People feel like they're alone. So that's how the site is right now, and that's kind of like the nebulous direction that we're moving in.
That's marvelous. I would say that it's maybe not so nebulous. You have a really strong foundation and a strong vision. It sounds like you've got a team of people. How many people would you say are helping you out to develop this curriculum?
Well, overall, I've had about 12 people contribute one way
Wonderful.
or another so far. And
And there's a lot of content producers in our sphere who may be listening to this right now. So I would urge them to go to schoolofthewest.world and try to contact you as well if they'd like to contribute. I can see how these things evolve over time, and you're meeting a need, you're filling a vital niche, an extremely critical niche, and there's so few resources like this out there for white children, white families. So I really just can't praise you enough, and that's why I wanted to get you on the program here. Um, yeah, we're a huge fans of Jason Kone and No White Guilt and that entire sphere, all his patriotic alternative, the Great Order, everybody and anybody, the White Art Collective, of course. We're a family, and our mission obviously is very much aligned with white positivity, and so we focus on, bringing back that connection, that continuity with our history, and looking at your site and looking at white well-being as a course in itself is so wonderful. I feel like this is really a historic moment that you're doing something, you're taking Jason's foundational work and then turning it into curriculum. As a former teacher myself for 20 years, I know how difficult that is to kind of take big ideas and parse them out into lessons that can be taught and then even measured in testing and various things like that. So it's quite a lot of work, not to mention all the coding and whatever you're doing to build the site and the modules, video. It's a colossal endeavor that you're taking on, and I want our listeners to appreciate that and support it as well. So maybe you could go in a little bit. I do obviously have some questions for you here. Um, I want to focus a bit on the school itself, but let's let the audience get to know you a little bit. Can you talk about, how you came to your racial awakening and how that happened for you? That's a
uh,
general question I ask all my guests. So,
sure. Yeah, it's a good question.
mm,
Well, I grew up as a military brat.
mm,
And so on average, I moved about once a year because, my dad's in the military and you get
right,
to move a lot as a kid because of
sure.
that. And when I was on base, there's a mix of white kids, black kids, Asian kids, like all sorts of stuff. And you don't really think anything of it because you're all in class together. You do stuff together. You're in Cub Scouts together, like whatever. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Um, Now, when I was older, like in junior high, when I moved off base, I remember my first day of school, I was riding the bus and I got on the bus and, you got to sit down on the bus. And so I see some empty seats, but there's a kid sitting in there. So I said, can I sit here? And it was, there's some black kids sitting in there and they're just giving me this evil, hateful look. Like what the hell's going on? It's like, no, you
Oh,
can't sit here. Like, okay, I'll go sit in the back of the bus with these like other little white kids. And so it was a really long year after that.
ah,
Once I was off base in the civilian world, black kids would like kick me, hit me,
mm,
spit on me, like try and cut in front of me in line, just constant,
yeah,
just like low level hatred constantly.
yeah.
And I would get in fights sometimes, fights in the classroom, fights in the hallway, fights in the playground. Lots of times I'd try and get away from the fight. The person was like twice my size.
Yeah.
So I really liked the book that Jason Kuna wrote, Crucible, which is a standalone book, and it's also a story within his bigger book, the Born Guilty book. Because when I read that, that was his story about what he went through in junior high, and I thought, holy crap!
Yeah.
It's like I went through a lot of this stuff myself,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people that went through this stuff. So I learned about this stuff early on. Like there was no doubt about it to me. And now later on, when I was an adult, I was able to move away to a state where it was just mostly white people there, and it's like, oh, okay, I can relax. I
Yeah.
can just live now.
Yeah.
And there was a time, it was in 2016 where I wanted to go teach in Europe. And
Hmm.
I had taught in East London in 2007,
Nice.
and it's kind of a crappy place to teach. That's why they
Oh,
want to bring in teachers from outside of the
not,
UK, because it's
not nice.
not a choice
Okay.
place.
Yeah, I get you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we know. So I thought I want to go back. Like I really want to go to Norway. Really
Mm.
would like to go to those types of places. So I was looking at schools in Norway, looking at schools in the Netherlands, Germany, looked at one in France, international schools, Department of Defense schools.
Mm.
Now, the Department of Defense schools, it's really hard to get into. I didn't have the qualifications for that. So I was looking at civilian schools, and I noticed that a lot of the administration there were Arabs. They were Muslims, and I thought, like, what am I looking at here?
Yeah.
Why is there a bunch of Muslims in the administration here? This is not making sense to
Oh,
me.
that's awful. Yeah, and that's
So
such a
yeah,
typical thing too. But go on.
yeah. So as you do on the internet, or you used to be able to, you go further and further down the rabbit holes, and you start seeing all these other, like, there's Muslims here and here and here and here. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait a second. I used to see these stories about these women in Sweden that were being beaten up and raped by Muslims, and I thought, like, that's just made up. That's not true. There's not Muslims there. They can't happen. And I thought, actually, that is true. They were doing that. There were lots of Muslims there. Like, now how many are in there? And when did they start getting brought in? And who's bringing them in?
Yeah.
And this is the time when they had Trump running for president. He's getting all this coverage and
Yeah.
all this other hullabaloo, malarkey, etc.
Yeah.
And Trump was the only one who was speaking out about the immigration coming into the states.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why weren't people talking about this before? And
Yeah.
why are they giving him a hard time? And so I just see all this stuff, like, bubbling up to the surface. And so I kept looking again on the internet, and there was a guy, I don't remember his name right now, and he was talking about actually the history of Islam, and here's the history of the Crusades, and here's actually what
Yeah.
happened in Spain and these other countries. And he interviewed on Red Ice. So I
Yeah.
listened to Red Ice. I thought, oh, that's nice. And then I got
Yeah.
a subscription to Red Ice, and then you keep going. I go, okay. And your view just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right. Right. I strongly agree or understand what you're saying. It's essential that we outlaw Sharia law and Noahide law. Those things absolutely have to happen, like, as soon as possible, to legally set the precedent to lock in our safety, and then start moving out from there in terms of pushing back on this invasion. We're in a civilizational battle. We've I don't want to turn the whole show into a talk on it on that. We certainly, maybe another time or something, we could do
Yeah.
that. But you've had many red pills, basically. You've
Oh,
eaten
yeah.
many red pills. Wow. And it's your experience is important, because somebody may be listening to this who is in the process of waking up and going free, and they're looking at things that happened to you and then saying, "Hey, I understand that," or I've experienced that. So yeah.
Right.
Well,
So Donald, can I say one more thing along that
sure,
line?
of course.
Okay.
Go on.
So while this stuff was happening to me in school, back at home, my mom, who was totally oblivious, she'd watch, I don't know, like Oprah Winfrey, or read self-help books or whatever. And every once in a while, she'd lecture me like, there's never a good reason to hit another human being. Now, I want you to repeat that. And I was like, what? Like,
Oh,
okay, mom, I'll repeat this, but you don't have any freaking idea what's going on at school.
right,
And
right.
so there's this huge information gap, this huge reality gap that even within our own families are going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the best way is, because I've tried to talk to friends, I've tried to talk to my mom, I've tried to talk to other people. And sometimes I just think, you know what? It's not worth trying to talk to you. I'm wasting my time with you.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
can I best use my time? You know what? I can do something that's proactive for our people. And if you don't want to come along, that's fine. But we're going to build ourselves up, and we're going to defend ourselves. If you want to be silly, if you want to be an alternate reality, you're going to do that without me,
yeah.
because it's time to wake up.
Matt, it's beyond time to wake up, and this is why what you're doing is so important. And I'm so happy to have you on. I hope that I can help you to promote it as well, and we can revisit this again and again in the future as you're growing as well.
Okay.
I would love that. So the next question I have for you is actually a very simple and obvious question to, I think, people like us, but I'm always advocating for people who are going free and waking up, etc. So, what is anti-white about the current education system?
Sorry. It's just,
That,
you just, Okay, how many days are we going to talk about this? All right. Well, there are multiple levels, and I'll say this first for people that don't have a background in education.
Hmm.
In the United States, you've got like an overall umbrella plan that's pushed by the national government, and the national government is able to play with different state policies because they take money away from the state if the states don't do what they want them to do.
Right.
And then at each state level, there's a Department of Education. Now they may or may not know what the heck they're doing, and they're gonna pass out policies that go down to the district level. And then within the district, they create their policies and they push those down to the schools. So you might have a tiny school district that's just one school, or you might have a school district that has multiple high schools, junior highs, elementaries, et cetera.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of different configurations of how this works. Now, within the state where I am, when I first noticed what was going on, is I was in the fifth grade and I was teaching a history class one day, and we were doing like geography, history,
Yeah.
and I was reading from the material that we were supposed to be teaching, and it was about the West and like California, Oregon, Washington, how it got developed.
Yeah.
And there was part of it in there that there were these people that were making movies back east, but when they were making movies back east, it was kind of cloudy and kind of cold, and they didn't like that. And they thought, hey, where could we go where it's really sunny and we can make movies in the sun? Hey, let's go to Southern California.
Oh my
And so that's how Hollywood started. And as I was reading that,
Oh
as the
my-
words were coming out as I was talking to my kids, I thought, this is a bunch of crap. This is actually a lie.
It's literally
Some
a lie. Yeah.
Someone wrote this as a lie, and that's when the light went off right there, and I said, hey, kids, actually, this is a lie. Because
Yeah.
I never lied to my kids in any class. And I said, here's what's actually going on. And I named the people who actually did that, and I told them what actually happened, and
Yep.
it's called Hollywood, and here's what's going on. And then I went on with the lesson.
Yep.
And so from then on, I was looking for that. Now, also what's been adopted in the last couple of years in my school district is a curriculum, and curriculums are written by companies. They'll have lots of authors, and they can create it for different grades and for different subjects. So there's some major companies that put together stuff for ELA, English Language Arts. And the curriculum that my school district bought for elementary 2 years ago would have lots of stories about like civil rights, and Martin Luther King was such a great guy, and President Johnson was such a great guy.
Yeah.
And let's see, integration in schools was good, and immigrants are good. And on the little worksheets that the kids have when they do a unit about voting, it's a Muslim woman casting a vote in the United States. So it's just constant pushing.
Yeah.
And so you get it at a school level, you get it at district, you get it at state. Just a couple of weeks ago, my state, and once again, blacks had absolutely nothing to do with this state. They sent out an email to all the teachers saying that because Black history is the heart of our history, we are
God.
celebrating blah, 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 blah. And so I immediately wrote back and said, what do you mean Black history is the heart of our state's history? You need to explain that to me. And they haven't sent anything back, but I'll keep bothering them about that because it's total BS. It's insane. It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. And there is mandatory teacher training, okay, when you work for a school district. And from time to time, they'll always slide in something about, well, this is why the Civil War actually happened. And here's some stuff about the Holocaust. And here's this thing called intergenerational trauma. So the kids that you teach that aren't white, well, they suffer from intergenerational trauma because they had a trauma at some point in the past, and it's getting passed down through their DNA. And that's why they can't do as good as you in school.
Oh God.
And that's why if you can't, like, I'm teaching science right now in high school.
Right.
If I can't have science labs because they pick up crap in the lab and they throw crap around and they don't do their work,
Right.
it's not because of them. It's because of the intergenerational trauma that happened to them because of interaction with whites in the past. It's just, it's BS.
Yes.
At so many levels, it's stacked up. So
yeah,
that's what's going on in schools to greater or lesser extents, depending upon what's going on in your district.
it's staggering to think of the levels of anti-white propaganda that is, it's everywhere, and it is built right into the education system. We see it obviously in entertainment, TV commercials, that kind of thing. But people who don't have kids, or even parents that are just trying to make a living and take care of their kids, they don't know what goes on in these classrooms and how it kind of echo chambers with the media, the popular media. So we're living in this insane kind of jungle of anti-white propaganda. And so what you're doing is so critical, it's so critical. And I think people need to hear it from teachers and educators like yourself, that lies are baked right into the curriculum. And my son's 15, and he's kind of gamer, he's into that culture, and it gives me hope because those guys, they're like edge lords like crazy. The kind of jokes that they make and stuff, I know that they see through the BS.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the impact and the damage that it's doing. And so just really want to promote what you're doing more. So let's get into the school itself. How did you come to create this, and kind of get into, like, how you started and where you're going from there?
Okay. Well, there was an idea in the back of my mind for a few years because the school district that I'm in, I care for all the kids. I love all the kids, and that's great. Most of them are not white because of where I am. It's difficult to be a teacher in an all-white, nice school district. Those are the hardest jobs to get. And of course, most of those teachers, most of those teachers, they're going to be kind of anti-white, and they'll be their liberal and all this kind of BS, but they're trying to get into the whitest neighborhoods. So that's just a bunch of nonsense. So while I'm in this district, I'm thinking that, you know what? These kids are great and all, but I know that there's a lot of white kids that need some help, and I can't get to them because I'm spending all my time, all my energy right here. And there's so many schools where there's so much money and so much effort that is the white money and white effort being funneled directly to non-whites. And I was thinking, there's got to be some way to create a school where white kids that want to be taught by whites can all be together. Now, all the other races can do that, but if you're a white person, you're not supposed to say that. Well, horseshit. It's time for white people to stand up and just knock it off, quit being cowards, and stand up for yourselves. And so I was thinking, how do I do that? Where can I go? Do these systems exist somewhere? Are there districts that exist? And so it's been in the back of my mind for a while. Now, before I was kicked off of Twitter about a year ago, I was having conversations like this with a few people, and someone said, yeah, we got to have our own schools. And I thought, oh yeah, we do. So I wrote back and said, okay, you let me know. I'm a teacher. I can help with this. Let me know. And then I didn't hear anything the next day and the next day. And I thought, what the hell? Were you going to do this or not? Like, when I say I'm going to do something, then I'll go and do it. I don't just say like, hey, I'm going to do this, guys. And then like, no, I'm going to be lazy again. So I thought, I got to do this. And also the timing was just right, because I finally had enough experience behind me where I could set that up. And a while ago in the past, I had kind of worked with websites and that sort of stuff. And at my school district, the coronavirus, levels, whether they're real or not, or infection or death or whatever, they were rising to a rate to where they closed down the school physically and we taught only online.
I understand.
So I had a lot more free time at that point. So everything kind of lined up at the right time for me to do that. And so I started buying the hardware that I needed, and then like the camera that I need, and get some lighting, and build some shelves, build some work area, get the computer that I need, put that together. And then on Jason's stream on Sundays is Go Free Stream that I'm there every Sunday. I moderate on there.
Oh, wonderful.
I did a call in for Jason, and Jason said, okay, what's going on, Brent? And I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this project. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm going to call again next week and tell you. He said, okay. So I called again next week. Okay, here's what it's called. Because I went and I said, okay, I got to get this domain, and now I've got to get web hosting, and I've got to jump through these other hoops. Sure. And so I jump through hoop. He put the information out there. People started contacting me. I said, okay, here's the plan. Here's what I want to do. What can each of you do to help out with that? And people started to help me set up the different pieces of it. And it just kept going from there. And then over the summertime, I didn't have a vacation. I just stayed and worked on it. And on the weekends, I didn't go anywhere. I just stayed and worked on it. And during Christmas break, I just stayed and worked on it because there's so much to do.
Yeah.
And for people that haven't made videos, like the few videos that I made for the white well-being section, you can work on an image or something and then put that in a video that lasts a couple of minutes, but you might have worked for 2 or 3 days just for like, I'm sorry, for a couple of seconds. You might have worked for 2 or 3 days for something that shows up for a couple of seconds on a video. So it
Right.
takes a long time. So
Yeah.
basically, I need to have a lot of me right now working on all the different aspects of it. But it's slowly moving along, and it's going to morph into what people need and also what people can contribute to me, and what obstacles do we get, and
Yeah.
how I can keep adding to it.
Wow, that is incredible. That is just gargantuan. And I think you're a true hero for embarking on this journey, and you should get as much support as possible. Anybody listening who can contribute in any way, please go to schoolofthewest.world, get in touch with Brant Danger, and get involved. It's all about action. We got to get involved, do things. We can't just be consumers of media. We have to be producers of media. And that could just be donating money or time or any kind of skills that you have, or connecting people to other people that can work together. We all know somebody. We all have networks, right? So let's bring our people together. I think in the Trump era, the last 4 years, there was a bit of resting on our laurels, and now we're in the fake presidency regime where it's no more time to kick back. It's action time. It's go time. So this is a fantastic area to put your energy, resources, etc. into, and it's for the children. It's for our future. If you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. And here's the door. So get involved in what Brant's doing here. So, so how did you come to decide to create the school? We've pretty much covered that already, I guess. And you're pulling it together
Yeah.
here. So let's get into that. Like, what would parents want to know about this? In a sense, the sales pitch. Why is this good for my kids? Why should I enroll my child or my children into School of the West?
Okay. Well, for right now, I would not say that there is an enrollment process. As it exists, it is a supplement for teachers. Yeah, you're going to be a teacher if you're teaching your kid. For
Yeah.
the parents that are homeschooling their children. Plus, also, it can be of benefit, an additional benefit, to kids that are already in public school, because they can look at the content on there, which is not traditional core content. No one is ever going to tell your kid about how to avoid anti-white propaganda if you're in public
Right.
school. That's never
Right.
going to happen. All
Yeah.
right. You have got, as a parent, you've got to take charge. You need to look and see what your kid is being taught. You need to take a look at that material. Okay.
Mhm,
Look at
mhm.
their homework, look at their worksheets, look at their workbooks, etc. Is it okay? Okay. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. If you have a problem with it, you need to bring it up with the school board. You bring it up with the school board. You go there first. Now, on the website here, if you go to the white well-being section, that is important no matter what your kid is doing. Okay. So that is a benefit.
Good.
Now, over time, like I said before, I can't say exactly what direction the site is going to go into. As it becomes feasible, I will create classes where you will sign up for that.
Mm.
I know I've got someone right now who wants to have some engineering classes.
Wow.
Okay,
Great.
he wants to work on this. And if we can get these kicked off in the summertime, I'll do that. I should have
Mm.
some free time to do that.
Good. Good.
Right now, I'm extremely constrained by
Your job.
work, yeah, by my job. So I have little slivers of time that I can dedicate to the site.
Mm.
So the site is going to be, emotionally and psychologically beneficial for every kid. If
Mm.
you are homeschooling, you have that benefit. Plus, myself and another teacher, we're slowly adding in core content. We're doing that in math, or a couple other teachers. We're doing that in math, and we're doing that in ELA. And the
Mm.
math and the ELA are aligned with the state standards. So it's not going to be like a whole year's worth of lessons, but what you're supposed to learn in that year, bang, it's going to be on there. So if your kid can master that content for that grade, and these are set up for American grades, which is kind of similar to the UK grades.
Mm-hmm.
If you can master that, then they're ready for the next year. So in theory, as this gets fleshed out and all the content gets on there, your kid can get on there and they can go through multiple years in one year if they want to, if they're ready for that. They don't have to go year by year by year that you get in public school. And also in public school, you're if you have an advanced kid, they're going to be held back because
Mhm.
the teachers have to teach at a level which is lower down, for equality and equity and all that kind of crap.
I am in
So
that situation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't have the excellence. If you're homeschooling, you can have the excellence. Your kid can move forward as fast as they want to. So
Nice. Very nice. So at the moment, everything is for free online. There's
yeah,
no quote, enrollment in the traditional sense. That's even better. So I think there's no excuse for everybody to not send this link out to everybody that they know who has kids specifically. So let's get it out there. This is an incredible resource. Um, I find that it would also be interesting to get it to teachers too. I understand that, of course, teachers go through an education process that, is kind of very liberal in its nature, and it's education is kind of a female dominated field, and naturally what goes with that is feminism. So there certainly would be a lot of pushback, from certain teachers, but I think there would also be other teachers that would secretly love this, and in some way have their own awakening, and hopefully in some way integrate this into their work and or supplement their work with this. So I'm being idealistic here, I think, but uh, if you don't have these idealistic visions, they won't occur, they won't come. So I think it's just as important to get this content to teachers as it is to parents. You had your awakening in class where you're reading out of a book to students and going, "Oh my God, I'm teaching lies right now." And
yeah,
that'd be like a doctor who couldn't save their patient. I mean, it's antithetical to your career and what you're doing, right? You have to tell the truth. So I'm a former art teacher, so I'm gonna get this link out to all my old teacher friends, and they might not reply, or they might. We'll see where it goes, but they can't unknow it. You know what I'm saying? They can't
yeah,
unsee it. Once they see it, they go, this is happening. This is a real thing. Somebody out there is doing this, and it's real. And now they have that cognitive dissonance whereby they think, if I were to integrate this into my curriculum, would I get in trouble? Would I lose my job? How would the how would the parents respond to it? And then they have to wrestle with those demons and figure it out. So I don't know, but again, if we don't try, what do we get, right? We have to get there's going to be other courageous teachers like yourself out there that see this opportunity and maybe think, oh my God, I wish I had done this. So it's a beautiful thing. These things flower, they grow exponentially, but it matters very much that the listener of this video is involved in that process and linking this out, getting the word out. It's not enough to make a website and just going to sit there in
right.
internet space. So let's all be a part of this in our own way. So do you have what are kind of your future goals, or even like in, best case scenario, what would you love to happen with School of the West.world?
I would like to keep a large section of it for free. I would like, ideally, I would like to keep the whole thing for
Mm-hmm.
free.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realize that in order to make it work, I'm going to have to be able to devote full time to that, or else it's gonna be extremely hobbled and move at a glacial pace.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't, and I wish that I had the time or like an army of people to do that to push it forward. So I would like to be able to some way, and I hate like asking for donations and that type of stuff, even
Yeah,
though
I
I
know.
I realize, being on this side of it now, I understand why people ask for that stuff, because the structures are not set up for us to do this. All the structures are set up against us. All the money is on the other side.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to do this full time, if I can get enough donations where I can just like do this full time and I have enough money to like pay my bills and eat, then I can stick on this and do this.
And
So
pay a staff
anyway,
and
what's
pay a
that?
staff and pay your staff, right?
Right. Yes, I would love to give money to people that they're donating their time and their effort and their talent, their experience. They're donating all that for free. So everything that I've done and everyone else has done is done for free because we're doing it for our people. And that's a good thing. If I already had all the money in the bank, I would just like, okay, school district,
Yeah.
go F yourself. We're working on this. We're working on this right now. I'm not going along
Yeah.
with your nonsense anymore. So
Earlier,
there's,
oh, go ahead.
so,
Oh,
so
go
there
ahead.
is, so, okay. So there is that aspect to it. Now, as far as the mechanics of the site goes, I want, like I said, all the science, the ELA, the math, everything to be fleshed out. I would like to have some live lessons. I would like to have a lot of work, lessons, material, etc., which covers a lot of life skills that are outside of what you normally get in a school. And it's not necessarily, doesn't have to be a white positive. It's just all these normal skills that you would learn, that we would learn in the past. Girls would learn this from the females. The
Yeah.
boys would learn this from the males.
Hmm.
You get some activities and skills that kind of identifies you with traditional gender roles. And there was a reason that we had the gender roles. There was a reason why we worked well together.
Hmm.
There was a reason why we had stable society. So that's also going to be in the website.
Mm.
So it's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And also, I'm contacting people from South Africa and Australia and other countries, and I want them to put together history or cultural lessons about their countries, because that's all part of Western kind. I
Huge.
want us all to come together. Look, we're one big family, and we're
Huge.
spread out over several nations.
Yep.
Okay.
That aligns perfectly with my project, the Imperium Art Show. It's an Imperium. I don't know if you've seen it. It's an ongoing documentary of the arts of the white positive movement.
I haven't seen that. I've barely seen anything because I've kept my head down for like 9 months while I
Well,
was working on this, because I know if I get sucked into something, then I'm going to be, oh, this is interesting.
yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to watch this instead of work.
Yeah.
But
I tried to do both, but yeah.
okay.
That's fabulous. That is so fabulous. And so after the show, I'll share some information and contacts. I'm loving where this is going. I think that great things start very small and then they grow, and it would be beautiful to see, a series of schools, physical schools like this all over the Imperium. From Australia to South Africa and everywhere in between. You were talking about money and these sorts of things earlier in the show. You were talking about how money is resources are funneled to people of color, to kids that, etc. You discussed that earlier, and I'm very, very, very aware of that and how that works both in the education world and in the art world. How money is definitely diverted away from whites, and especially like straight white male Christians, that's the culture they're trying to destroy, right?
Right.
So with that being the norm in society and it being so ubiquitous and so huge, that I think should motivate people to think seriously about donating to what you're doing. I don't know if you have a kind of a donation funnel set up or anything of that nature, but people don't recognize, or they don't often think that these are financial systems. They're financial structures that are, turning the wheels of our destruction. And, we have to rethink, like, it is worth donating money to something like this, for example, because that's creating our own world, our own salvation in a way from this giant anti-white genocide machine. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to put out there in context of that as well. So is there anything you want to share? Anything else you want to share about it before we wrap it up today?
Oh, well, if someone goes there right now, they're not going to see a way to donate. I'm working on that.
Okay.
There's people that are giving me bits of information, and there's a donate plugin I'm working for the website, and the things weren't working with PayPal and all that kind of stuff. But I'll have that on there soon.
Yeah, I have a
So
Venmo donation button on my AmericanZarathustra.com. So I recommend that. I believe Venmo is pretty friendly. Just a thought. So yeah, anyway, you can see at the bottom of the homepage their contact at schoolofthewest.world. So please do get in touch, check out the site. There's just some fantastic content on here. It's very exciting to see what you're doing and to watch it grow. So we're very, very happy to have you here, and I think we'll have to revisit you and this topic again in the future.
all right, sounds good.
Awesome. Well, once again, folks, thank you for joining us. Please share, subscribe, and get the word out there. Have a great day.